Before I say anything else, I want to give you a warning. If you are satisfied with your life exactly as it is right now, if you have no desire for more money, more freedom, more peace, then stop this video immediately and walk away. What I am about to tell you is not motivation. It is not inspiration. It is not a feel-good story designed to make your morning slightly better. What I am about to tell you is a discovery. A discovery that was made more than a century ago, then stolen, then buried, then locked away from the eyes of ordinary people because those in power understood exactly what would happen if the masses ever learned the truth. They understood that the moment ordinary people discovered what I discovered, the entire system built on your struggle, your confusion, and your financial desperation would collapse overnight. So they took my research. They sealed it. They called me a madman, and they hoped the world would forget. But I am not finished speaking. I am Nikola Tesla. I discovered alternating current. I gave the world wireless transmission. I mapped the electromagnetic heartbeat of this planet. And before my body stopped working in room 3327 of the New Yorker hotel on a cold January night in 1943, I had discovered something far more powerful than electricity. I had discovered the frequency inside the human brain that, when unlocked, makes wealth not a goal, but an inevitability. That discovery was taken from you. Tonight, I am giving it back. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, your understanding of why you have money or why you do not will change permanently. And once you understand what I am about to show you, you will never think about your brain, your money, or your future the same way again. The question is not whether this works. The question is whether you are ready to hear the truth that 99% of the people alive today will go to their graves never knowing. You have been living with a brain that is working against you, not because you are weak, not because you are unintelligent, not because the universe has decided that wealth belongs to someone else and poverty belongs to. You know, the reason is far more precise than that. The reason is frequency. Everything in this universe vibrates. Every atom in your chair is vibrating right now. Every molecule in the air you are breathing is vibrating. The floor beneath you, the walls around you, the blood moving through your body at this very moment, all of it is in constant motion, constant vibration, operating at measurable frequencies. This is not philosophy. This is physics. And your brain is no different. Your brain produces measurable electromagnetic waves. Scientists have known this for decades. They have names for these waves: beta waves, alpha waves, theta waves, delta waves. Each one represents a different frequency range, a different mental state, a different relationship between you and the world around you. Most people walk through their entire lives permanently locked in beta frequency. Beta is the frequency of stress. Beta is the frequency of survival. Beta is the frequency of waking up already worried about money, spending the day reacting to problems, collapsing into bed exhausted, and waking up to do it all again. Beta is not a bad frequency. It was designed to keep you alive in moments of danger. But when you live in beta permanently, as most people in modern society do, it becomes a prison. It locks your brain into a constant state of lack, fear, and smallness. And here is what nobody tells you. Wealth does not live in beta frequency. Wealth lives in alpha. Wealth lives in theta. These are the lower, slower, deeper brain frequencies that activate when you are calm, when you are creative, when you are connected to something larger than your daily problems. In alpha frequency, your brain stops fighting the world and starts receiving from it. Ideas come. Solutions appear. Opportunities that were always present suddenly become visible. In theta frequency, the deepest layer of subconscious programming is accessible. This is the frequency where your deepest beliefs about money, about yourself, about what you deserve, were installed in the first place. And this is the frequency where they can be rewritten. I said something a moment ago that I want you to sit with. You were not born poor. You were tuned to poverty. The difference between those two statements is everything. Being born poor suggests the condition is permanent, inherited, fixed. Being tuned to poverty means it is a setting, and settings can be changed. Your brain is a receiver, the most sophisticated receiver ever created. And right now, for most of you listening, that receiver is tuned to the wrong frequency. Not because of fate, not because of your parents, not because of your past, simply because nobody ever showed you where the dial is or how to turn it. I want to tell you something about the night I died. Not to be dramatic, but because what happened in those hours after my body stopped is the most important context for everything I am about to teach you. I had been living in room 3327 of the New Yorker hotel for years. The world had largely forgotten me by then. The man who had once lit up the Chicago World's Fair, who had dreamed of giving free energy to every human being on Earth, was dying alone in a hotel room, attended by no one. But on my desk, stacked in careful order, were the most dangerous documents ever written by a human hand. Not dangerous because they contained weapon designs, though some of them did. Dangerous because they contained something the men in power feared far more than any bomb. They contained the complete documentation of my research into what I called resonant brain frequency. For the final years of my life, I had turned my attention away from machines and toward the machine that operates all other machines, the human brain. And what I found terrified the people who learned of it. I discovered that the human brain, when operating at a specific frequency range, does not just think about wealth, it begins to generate the conditions for wealth through its electromagnetic interaction with the field that surrounds all living things. I discovered that this frequency, this precise resonant state of the mind, was measurable, reproducible, and teachable. Any person, any background, any level of education, any nationality, any age, with the correct method, any human being could be shown how to tune their brain to this frequency. The implications were not subtle. If the entire population learned to operate from wealth frequency, rather than survival frequency, the economic structures that depend on most people staying exactly where they are would cease to function. The labor system requires a large population of people who believe they have no choice. The advertising system requires a large population of people who believe something outside themselves will fill the emptiness inside them. The political system requires a large population of people who are too exhausted and too afraid to ask difficult questions. My research threatened all of it. They came from my documents before my body was cold. Government agents, later known as the FBI, broke into my room within hours of my death. They removed every notebook, every diagram, every journal entry. They told the public it was to prevent enemy nations from accessing my weapons research. That was a lie. The weapons research was secondary. What they came for was the frequency files. They sealed them under national security classification. And for decades, the most liberating scientific discovery in human history sat locked in a government vault, while generation after generation of ordinary people struggled financially, never knowing that the solution had already been found, documented, and deliberately hidden from them. I am telling you this not to make you angry, though anger is an appropriate response. I am telling you this so you understand the weight of what you are about to receive. This is not self-help content. This is classified information, and it belongs to you. Now I will explain to you precisely how this works, because I was a scientist before I was anything else, and I will not ask you to believe something without showing you the mechanism behind it. Your brain, as I said, produces electromagnetic waves. These waves are not just byproducts of thinking. They are transmissions. They interact with the electromagnetic field that surrounds this planet, the field that every living thing on Earth exists within, the field that connects every human brain to every other human brain and to the Earth itself. In 1952, a scientist named Schumann calculated the resonant frequency of the space between the Earth's surface and its ionosphere. He found that this cavity resonates at approximately 7.83 Hz. This became known as the Schumann Resonance. It is often called the heartbeat of the Earth. What most people do not know is that this frequency, 7.83 Hz, falls precisely within the human brain's theta wave range. The Earth and the human brain share the same fundamental frequency. This is not a coincidence. This is design. When your brain is operating in theta frequency, it is in direct resonance with the electromagnetic heartbeat of the planet. And when that resonance is achieved, something extraordinary happens. The separation between what you want and what you receive begins to dissolve. Now I want to tell you about the pineal gland. This small pinnacle-shaped structure sits at the center of your brain. Ancient civilizations from Egypt to India called it the third eye. They understood intuitively what modern science has only recently confirmed. The pineal gland is composed largely of calcite microcrystals, the same crystalline structure used in quartz watches to maintain precise frequency, the same structure used in radio transmitters to generate and receive signals. Your brain contains, at its very center, a biological crystal radio, a receiver and transmitter of electromagnetic frequency that is, when functioning correctly, capable of tuning to the precise resonant field in which wealth, abundance, and extraordinary opportunity exist. But here's the problem that modern life has created. The bombardment of information that the average person receives daily, the constant stimulation from phones, news, social media, artificial light, the chronic stress of financial worry, all of it generates sustained beta wave dominance in the brain. And sustained beta wave dominance does two devastating things. First, it suppresses pineal gland function. The pineal gland requires periods of stillness and darkness to operate at full capacity. Constant stimulation essentially blinds your internal antenna. Second, it keeps your brain's electromagnetic output at a frequency that is incompatible with wealth attraction. You cannot tune to a signal you are actively jamming. And most people, without realizing it, are jamming their own signal every single day. This is what I mean when I say your brain is working against you. It is not your fault. The conditions of modern life were not designed to help you receive. They were designed to keep you transmitting fear, lack, and urgency on a frequency that serves the system, not your freedom. I want to speak to you directly now, not as a scientist, as someone who has watched human beings suffer needlessly for far too long. I want you to understand with complete clarity why your wealth frequency is blocked. Because until you identify the exact source of the interference, you cannot eliminate it. There are 3 reasons, only 3. And I would wager that as I describe each one, you will recognize yourself in at least one of them, perhaps all 3. The first reason is noise. Not the noise of traffic or construction, the noise of information. The average person today consumes more information in a single day than a person living in the year 1800 consumed in an entire lifetime. News, social media, other people's opinions, notifications, headlines, designed not to inform you, but to agitate you, to keep your nervous system in a state of low-grade alarm that locks your brain permanently in beta frequency. Think of it this way. Imagine you are trying to pick up a faint radio signal from thousands of miles away. A signal so precise and so beautiful that receiving it would change everything. But in the room where your radio sits, 10 other radios are playing at full volume. You cannot hear the signal you need because you are drowning in signals you do not need. That is the condition of the modern mind. The wealth frequency is broadcasting constantly. The universe never stops sending. But you cannot receive what you cannot hear. And you cannot hear what is buried under an avalanche of noise. The second reason is what I call the belief virus. Every human being enters the world as a pristine receiver. An infant's brain operates almost entirely in theta and delta frequency, which is why children learn at an astonishing rate, absorbing information directly into the subconscious without filtering. But as that child grows, it begins to absorb not just information, but beliefs. And for most people, the beliefs absorbed in childhood about money are deeply catastrophically limiting. Money does not grow on trees. Rich people are greedy. We cannot afford that. Stop dreaming and be realistic. Who do you think you are? These phrases, heard repeatedly during the formative years, do not simply pass through the mind. They install themselves as programs in the subconscious. They become the default setting of your brain's receiver. And so by the time you reach adulthood, your brain is not tuned to your own wealth frequency. It is tuned to your parents' fear, to your teacher's limitations, to a society that needed you to stay small and manageable. You are not listening to yourself. You have never listened to yourself. You have been listening to a recording of someone else's poverty, playing on repeat inside your own mind. The third reason is the survival loop. Worry about money creates stress. Stress releases cortisol. Cortisol suppresses the brain's higher frequency functions. Suppressed higher frequency means fewer creative solutions, fewer noticed opportunities, less attractive energy in every interaction, which creates more financial struggle, which creates more worry, which creates more cortisol. The loop is not just psychological, it is neurochemical, and it is brutally efficient at keeping you exactly where you are. Every single time you look at your bank account and feel fear, you are pushing the wealth frequency further out of reach. Every single time you say, "I cannot afford this," you are instructing your brain to maintain the frequency of lack. The irony is devastating. The very act of desperately wanting more money is what most reliably ensures you will not receive it. Now, I will give you the method. This is what was in those files they tried to hide. Not theories, not philosophy. Specific, precise, repeatable steps for tuning your brain to wealth frequency. I call it the Tesla method, and it has 4 steps. Each step serves a specific neurological function. Do not skip any of them. Do not modify them until you have used them exactly as described for at least 30 days. Step 1 is what I call the morning silence. Every morning before you touch your phone, before you speak to another person, before you allow the noise of the world to enter your mind, you must give your brain 3 minutes of complete silence. 3 minutes. That is all I am asking. Set your alarm 3 minutes earlier if you must. In those 3 minutes, do not think about your schedule. Do not review your problems. Do not plan your day. Simply lie still or sit upright and breathe slowly, and allow your brain to remain in the theta state it naturally inhabits in the moments just after waking. This is the window, the theta window. This is when your subconscious is most permeable, most receptive, most willing to accept new programming. The information you allow into your mind in those first 3 minutes sets the electromagnetic tone of your entire day. If the first thing you see is bad news, your brain locks into beta before it has even had the chance to fully wake up. If the first thing you experience is silence, your brain remains in theta long enough for you to do the work of step 2. Step 2 is the 369 frequency pulse. Those who have followed my work will recognize these. Numbers 3, 6, 9. Said once that if you knew the magnificence of these numbers, you would have the key to the universe. I meant it literally. In the context of wealth frequency, here is how you use them. During your 3 minutes of morning silence, bring to your mind a clear image of your life as it will look when your wealth frequency is fully activated, not a vague wish. A specific sensory, detailed vision. You, in the exact circumstances you desire, feel the emotions of that reality, not the hope of it, the reality of it. Hold that vision and those emotions for a full 3 count. 3 slow breaths while fully inhabiting that image. At midday, pause for 60 seconds. 6 slow breaths. Return to that same image. Refresh the emotional connection. At night, in the minutes before you sleep, return to that vision one final time. 9 slow breaths. Allow the image to be the last. Conscious input your brain receives. Before dropping into sleep, why 3, 6, and 9? Because these numbers represent the 3 primary resonant harmonics of the electromagnetic field. The universe does not operate in random intervals. It operates in patterns. And 369 is the most fundamental pattern of energetic transmission. When you pulse your wealth vision at these 3 intervals throughout the day, you are not simply thinking positive thoughts. You are transmitting on the universe's own frequency rhythm. You are speaking the language of the field. Step 3 is the resonance word. I want you to choose one single word. One word that, when you say it or hear it or even think it, immediately connects you to the feeling of total financial abundance. For some people, that word is abundance. For others, it is freedom. For others, it is enough. The specific word matters less than the emotional charge it carries for you. Once you have chosen your word, you will use it as a tuning instrument. Every morning, during your silence, you will repeat that word 3 times slowly, with a 2-second pause between each repetition. But here is what separates this from empty affirmation. As you say the word, you must feel it, not perform it. Your body must respond. Your chest must warm. Your shoulders must drop. Something physical must happen. Because it is not the word that changes the frequency. It is the electromagnetic signal generated by genuine emotion that changes the frequency. The word is simply the trigger. The emotion is the transmission. If you say your word and feel nothing, stop and wait until you can access the feeling before continuing. A word said without feeling is noise. A word said with genuine emotional resonance is a command to the universe. Step 4 is the gratitude amplifier. Of all the emotional states available to the human brain, genuine gratitude produces the highest and most stable electromagnetic frequency. Higher than excitement, higher than happiness, higher even than love in its reactive form. Because gratitude is not reactive. Gratitude does not depend on circumstances. Gratitude is a choice. And when it is genuinely chosen, it shifts the brain from beta to alpha almost instantly. Here's what I want you to do. Every evening, before you begin your 369-night pulse, spend 60 seconds in genuine gratitude. Not a list of things you are grateful for. Not a mental exercise. A physical experience of gratitude. Find one thing, just one, that you are genuinely glad exists in your life. It does not have to be large. It can be a cup of tea. It can be the sound of rain. It can be that your lungs are working without effort. Hold that one thing in your awareness and allow the feeling of being genuinely glad for it to expand in your chest. That sensation, that warmth, that quiet fullness is you operating at wealth frequency. And 60 seconds of it before sleep means 60 seconds of wealth frequency, programming delivered directly into the subconscious at the moment when it is most receptive. I want to share something personal with you now, because I think it will help you understand that this method is not theoretical. During the years when my greatest work was produced, I maintained specific daily habits that I now understand were frequency habits. I did not understand them entirely at the time. I knew they worked. I did not always know precisely why. Every morning, without exception, I began the day with cold water on my face. Not a shower. Simply cold water splashed directly onto the face and the back of the neck. This single act produces an immediate neurological reset. It triggers what scientists now call the dive reflex, which sharply reduces heart rate and shifts brainwave activity. From beta toward alpha, I was effectively forcing my brain into a more receptive frequency state every single morning before I began any work. I walked every day. Not for exercise, though there was physical benefit. I walked for the quality of thought that walking produces. When the body is in gentle rhythmic motion, the brain enters a light alpha state. Ideas would come to me during walks that never came to me at my desk. This is because my desk was a place of focused beta thinking. The street, the park, the open air, these were places of alpha receiving. I also paid close attention to the time of day. There are specific windows during each day when the Schumann Resonance is measurably stronger, near sunrise, near 3 o'clock in the afternoon, near sunset. I arranged my most important creative work around these windows whenever possible. When I needed to receive an idea rather than analyze one, I would go still during these hours and simply wait. The ideas came. They always came. Not because I was exceptional, because I was available. I had created the conditions for reception. And perhaps most importantly, I spent significant time alone. Not because I disliked people, though I will admit people exhausted me at times, but because I understood that the signal I was trying to receive required silence to be heard. Every great inventor, every great artist, every person who has ever created something that genuinely changed the world has spent significant time alone in silence. This is not coincidence. This is how the antenna works. Solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is the condition in which the highest frequency transmissions can be received. Do not let anyone tell you that spending time alone in silence is a waste. It is the most productive thing a human being can do. Now, I must warn you, because what I have given you is powerful, and like all powerful things, it can be undermined. There are 7 things that will destroy your wealth frequency. Not slow it down. Destroy it. I want you to hear each one clearly. The first is checking your phone within 5 minutes of waking up. I told you about the morning theta window. When you reach for your phone in those first minutes, you are flooding that window with noise, notifications, other people's urgency, the world's problems. You are slamming the door on the most important frequency moment of your entire day. Every single morning you do this. You are choosing beta over theta, survival over wealth, reaction over reception. Put your phone across the room. Let those 3 minutes of silence be sacred. The second is daily consumption of news. I want to be precise here. I am not telling you to be uninformed about the world. I am telling you that the news, as it is currently designed and delivered, is an instrument of beta frequency maintenance. It is optimized to trigger fear, outrage, and anxiety because those emotional states keep your attention locked on the screen. Every minute you spend consuming news in this format is a minute your brain is being trained to operate in low-frequency survival mode. Limit it severely. Consume information deliberately and briefly rather than passively and endlessly. The third is saying the words, "I cannot afford it." I want you to understand what happens neurologically when you say these words. Your brain does not hear them as a temporary financial assessment. Your brain hears them as an identity statement. I am someone who cannot afford things. And your subconscious, which is always listening, records it as instruction. Find a different phrase. I am choosing to use my money differently. Right now is accurate and does not install poverty as an identity. Words are not just communication. Words are frequency commands delivered to your own subconscious. Use them with the precision of an engineer. The fourth is surrounding yourself with low-frequency people. I say this not with judgment, but with scientific accuracy. Human brains entrain to one another. When you spend extended time with people who operate in chronic fear, complaint, and lack mentality, your brain begins to synchronize with their frequency. This is a documented neurological phenomenon. It is not their fault. It is not your fault. It is simply physics. You cannot spend your days surrounded by beta-frequency minds and expect to maintain alpha-frequency thinking. Choose your company with the same care you would choose your food. The fifth is practicing this method with even a fraction of doubt. I told you in the water script that doubt is resistance. Here, I will go further. Doubt does not merely weaken the method. Doubt is the method working in reverse. Every thought of this probably will not work is a transmission. It is a frequency signal sent to the same field you are trying to attract from, and it is saying clearly, do not send. I am not ready to receive. If you cannot believe completely, then at minimum practice the actions without the doubt. Act as if. Perform each step as if it is already working. The belief will follow the behavior. It always does. The sixth is stopping before 30 days. The changes that occur through frequency work are not always visible. In the first week, the first 10 days, the brain is still in the process of breaking old pathways and beginning to establish new ones. It feels like nothing is happening. This is the most dangerous moment, because this is when most people quit. They quit 3 days before the first shift would have become visible. Do not be among them. Commit to 30 days minimum. 90 if you are serious. The brain's neuroplasticity requires time. The universe's response requires alignment. Both take longer than 10 days. The 7th is treating this information as entertainment. I understand that the format in which you are receiving this looks and sounds like content. It is not content. It is instruction. The difference between the person whose life changes after hearing this and the person who moves on to the next video is simple. One of them acted, one of them listened, and then returned to exactly what they were doing. This information sitting in your brain without application is worth nothing. Less than nothing, because now you know and have chosen not to act, which your subconscious records as confirmation that change is not really possible for you. Apply what I have given you. Starting tonight. Starting with step 1 tomorrow morning, not next week. Not when the time is right. Tomorrow. I want to leave you with something that has stayed with me. Across all the years and all the distance between where I stood and where you stand now. You did not find this by accident. The universe does not operate by accident. The fact that you are here, listening to these words, feeling something stir in the part of you that has always known there, was more available to you than what you have been living. That is not coincidence. That is your frequency beginning to respond. That is your antenna, perhaps for the first time in years, turning in the direction of the signal it was built to receive. The wealth frequency was always there. It was broadcasting before you were born, and it will continue broadcasting long after all of us are gone. It did not disappear when they locked away my files. It does not disappear when the noise of life drowns it out. It is constant. The universe is constant in its offering. What changes is not the signal. What changes is the receiver. You have spent long enough tuned to the wrong station. You have spent long enough listening to fear when abundance was playing on the next frequency the entire time. The method I have given you tonight is simple. Not easy, because nothing worth having is without some demand, but simple. 3 minutes of morning silence. The 369 frequency pulse, your resonance word. 60 seconds of genuine gratitude. These 4 things, practiced with sincerity and continued without interruption for 30 days, will begin to shift the electromagnetic output of your brain in ways that are not mystical, but measurable. Not random, but predictable. Not impossible, but inevitable. And if you are ready to declare that shift, if you are ready to make your intention known not just to yourself, but to the field that is listening, then write these words in the comments below. Write, I am tuned. That is all. 3 words. But those 3 words, written with genuine intention in this moment, are the beginning of your contract with the universe. Not a contract of effort, a contract of alignment. I am tuned means I am ready to receive. It means I have stopped fighting the signal and started becoming the receiver. It means the frequency I was born with, the frequency that was covered over by years of noise and fear and other people's limitations, is now being restored. If this reached something in you, press the like button. That small action carries a frequency of gratitude that crosses whatever distance exists between us and reminds me that what I worked to leave behind has found the people it was meant for. And if you want to continue this journey, if you want to go deeper into the hidden science of the mind, the universe, and the life you are capable of living, stay with this channel. There is more to share. There always has been. I spent my life trying to give humanity something it was not yet ready to receive. Perhaps now the time has come. Perhaps you are the generation that was always meant to unlock what my hands began and the world tried to bury. The frequency is yours. It was always yours. All you had to do was tune in. Sleep well tonight. And tomorrow morning, before the world gets its hands on your mind, give yourself 3 minutes of silence. In those 3 minutes, the version of you that already lives in abundance is trying to reach you. Let it through. Good night.